The Minnesota Timberwolves have been eliminated. They have lost in 6 games to the San Antonio Spurs. And before y'all say, yes, I did watch the game. And secondly, shout out to the Spurs. They had such an insane turnaround over the last 3 years. They were one of the worst teams in the league. And then they were able to draft very well. Obviously, it's not hard to draft well when you have a bunch of top 5 picks, but we've seen people not draft well with top 5 picks, so it's still a really good thing for them to do. And those young players have shown that they can play winning basketball very quickly. First things first, I'm not going to talk about Game 6 that much because it was a blowout from the beginning. I'm giving nothing but props to Stephon Castle. They tried to use a different defensive scheme on him. Did not work because he was letting it motherfucking rain from 3. I believe he went 5 for 7. Dylan Harper has been insanely valuable this entire playoffs. Same thing with De'Aaron Fox. Wemby's Wemby. Every time Wemby has had a bad game, they have lost. So that just tells you how important he is to their system and to what they want to do. And the thing that really catches me with this Spurs team is that they are not overly reliant on the 3 ball. And that's something that really is rare in this current NBA system. But when it comes to the best teams in the West right now, both of them are not overly reliant on 3-pointers. Obviously, they have 3-point specialists. Like they have, I believe it is Julian Champagny is on that team, and he's been great in the playoffs, cannot miss. And, of course, OKC has players like Lou Dort who can't score unless it's a 3. And they have people like Isaiah Joe, etc., and a lot of like 3-point centered players, but they are not a 3-point center team, and neither are the Spurs. That's all I'm going to say about that series because I want to do a whole podcast about that because it is so interesting and like intriguing. I want everything to do with it, truly. But let's get down to some real hard conversations. The Minnesota Timberwolves need a lot of changes. They came into this playoffs as a 6 seed. Last year they came in as a 6 seed as well, I believe. And yes, they have been able to make it pretty far in the last 2 years. They were able to upset the Nuggets this year. And last year they beat the Lakers and then they beat the Warriors. But the Warriors were wobbled. They didn't have Curry for the entire series. But they were able to make it to the Western Conference Finals and they got blitzed. And this year they get blitzed again. And then 2 years ago when they made it against Luka, they got blitzed. So it's just showing me one thing. They do not have what they need to get that next step. The first time they made the conference finals, they were young. People said, okay, we're going to give them the benefit of the doubt. This is their first real playoff run where they went deep, and they were able to really, go somewhere. So we're going to give them the benefit of the doubt. Their second one, they go against OKC, thoroughly outmatched on every front, thoroughly outmatched. And they've continuously had question marks every regular season coming into the playoffs. They just overperform in the playoffs, which is good for them. It just shows you that they are a playoff rising team, but they cannot rise enough to beat the top of the top, and that's what we have seen again. They play the Spurs, and the Spurs showed them we're better than you in every front. We don't care about Jaden McDaniels. We don't care about what you saw from Ayo last series, which I loved, by the way. I'm a big fan of Ayo. I hope he has a great career. I hope that next year he builds off of what he was able to build on coming into this playoffs. But they didn't care about that. They're just a better team, and they're better schemed, and they are better coached. And Rudy Gobert, after having such a great series, bad. Julius Randle. I've had this conversation about Julius Randle for as long as he's been a high-level player. So ever since 2021, I believe it was, he has had such a polarizing career, and his opinion is always fluctuating throughout the entire NBA because he is either, oh, man, I love when Julius is on, he's playing aggressively, but when he's off, and he's been off all playoffs, oh, my God. It is a horrible brand of basketball to watch, truly. And I feel like that's one of the first steps that the Timberwolves have to do to really contend in the future. Move on from people like Julius Randle and try to get in an actual substantial number 2. And I feel like to get him a substantial number 2, you might have to take a step back for the next 2 years. Reload on assets, reload on everything because they don't have any draft picks. They traded 6 of them, Was it 5 or was it 6? I think it was 6 because Walker Kessler was a rookie at the time, just for Rudy Gobert. And it works out when it works out because, when they played the Denver Nuggets, it worked out. Jokic had one of his worst series. But it didn't work out in this series because Wemby is just a tough matchup for anybody on earth. And the rim pressure that the Spurs, continuously give is so difficult to scheme for that, it's impossible for you to really do anything. Rudy Gobert was a nothing in this series. And this is coming from a guy who understands the Rudy Gobert hype. But he was just a nothing in the series, truly. Let me just look at some other things from this series on my phone. Well, that's one of the first steps they have to do for me. They have to trade Rudy Gobert and Julius Randle because they are both aging stars heading onto the end of their careers, and they need to recoup, recalibrate what they're doing, try to get more cap space to give Ant a higher chance of having a secondary star next to him because I don't see any of these people evolving into secondary stars. I like Jaden McDaniels. I like Io. I like Terrence Shannon. I like all these players that they have. But do I think that they're going to end up becoming star-level players that it's good enough for them to not even look at other, star trades with them included? No. If you put Terrence Shannon in a trade right now for somebody like Kevin Durant, even though Kevin Durant has been one of the more disappointing superstars of this entire decade, I'm not even playing, I would still take it because the chance of having Kevin Durant and Anthony Edwards on a team together is a chance that we can't miss as the Timberwolves. I'm thinking in the Timberwolves GM point of view. We cannot miss the opportunity because if it clicks, it's going to click and we are going to be a finals contender. People are saying that they're a top 4 team in the West, but the top 3 are just so much better. Or the top 2 specifically are just so much better than you that you have to do something, even if it means for the next 2 years you're not top 3, you're top 8. Which I think that they should go. I think they should go that route. Try to recoup. And in the next few years, we have to really evaluate Chris Finch. He came into this game and tried to bring a different game plan, and I'm sorry. Where is he at? Putting Rudy Gobert on Stephon Castle, obviously not a good idea. Would have never been a good idea. And the last time we saw Rudy Gobert have to guard a guard-level player, it was Terrence Mann. And Terrence Mann dropped 40 on him and won them that game. Happened again. Stephon Castle, amazing game. 11 for 16 from the field. 5 for 7 from 3. How many assists? 6 assists, 11 rebounds. This is just one of the most efficient games I've ever seen. Very, oh my God. This team's going to be hard to beat. And I think that them and OKC are just so well rounded on both each sides, and it's such a great matchup, and I cannot wait for that. But back to the Timberwolves, another thing that they have to do is evaluate Chris Finch. I feel like Chris Finch should be, I'm not saying he's on the hot seat, I'm saying he's on a very similar trajectory as somebody like Dwayne Casey with the Toronto Raptors. He gets you to a level where you feel like you can contend. You are making it to the conference semifinals. You are about to make it to your third conference finals if you made it this year. Team consistently being a good team, having good schemes against teams that are lesser than you, having good schemes against teams that have exploitable options. Like Jokic was a very exploitable person in that last series. So what he did, he brought in Terrence Shannon, who brings immense rim pressure. You bring in somebody like De'Aaron Fox, immense rim pressure. You bring up Io, who is, he plays like a Chicago guard, immense rim pressure. Once that is gone, and once you don't have that easily exploitable player, what is your scheme looking like? What are you going to exploit? Because if you can't exploit anything, what are you like? What are you doing, basically? Because think of all of the series that they've won over the last 2 years. When they beat the Lakers last year, they were exploitative because they did not have a big man. Immense rim protection again, immense rim pressure again. Then when they played the Warriors, there was no Stephen Curry. Exploit that. They cannot score at the same level without Stephen Curry, and they got him out of there in 5. But once they played a team that did not have a canyon of a weakness, there is no scheme. There was not a scheme against Luka and Kyrie when they were fully healthy going at it. No scheme. There was no scheme against OKC. There was no scheme that I saw that was apparent against this Spurs team. It was just, I hope that Anthony Edwards can drop 40, or I hope that for some reason Wemby elbows the shit out of Naz Reid. Like, that is what it is. And that's going into my next point. I understand 6th man of the year, great player. I have nothing negative to say about Naz Reid. What do you think his value is? He is a big deal to the city. And I understand it because Naz Reid is one of those players that they got. He was undrafted, I believe. And he was able to mold himself into being a productive player. And as an NBA fan, whenever you have a player who had no chance, it feels a little different than a star. Like, for me, I'm a Warriors fan. Whenever GP2 was really showing up, I was like, oh. And it made me an instant fan of him. Same thing with somebody like Jordan Poole or even Otto Porter for that 1 year we won a ring. Just like having that option and having that sort of thing makes the city love you a lot more. And another thing that I feel like the Timberwolves need to do, which I don't know if it's like a easy thing to do at this point in time, because to be honest, I will never know the ideas and the mindset of this team or this franchise. Go get Ja Morant. Go get Ja Morant. And I know it's a lot easier said than done probably for them because they don't have the draft capital, but they do have the money. They have the money to make it work. I feel like the Memphis Grizzlies would want an expiring contract like Dante DiVincenzo because, to be honest, he probably won't play next season, and they just want to get Ja off the team at this point and restart. I feel like you could offer them somebody like Terrence Shannon. Just get Ja Morant on that team. The biggest thing that Anthony Edwards has not had throughout his entire career as a player in general was a consistent point guard, or a point guard that is higher than role player level. I love Mike Conley. That's my boy. I do not see him as anything other than a role-playing point guard, especially at this point of his career, because he's fucking old. He's really old. It doesn't make sense to even consider him higher than that. So get somebody like Ja Morant on your team. I feel like Ja Morant could have a resurgence in a different team, in a different system, feeling like, he would feel rejuvenated in a different place, not as a number one option. The only thing that would really concern me is the fact that he can't really play off the ball, but that wouldn't have to be his job. Anthony Edwards can play off ball pretty well. But please, at least try to get Ja Morant. Try your best to get a Ja Morant on your team. I understand the negative PR, all that stuff. I don't care. Get him on the team because Anthony Edwards needs some sort of pressure alleviated from him to be able to become the best version of him. Chris Paul going to the Suns was the best thing that happened to Devin Booker. He had so much pressure alleviated as a scorer. This is an insane example that I'm about to bring up. Kevin Durant going to the Warriors was the best thing for him, and it made him the best player he was. They brought out the best version of Kevin Durant because he didn't have to put so much pressure on himself to score every possession. So he could get the easy buckets and then also be an insanely good defender after not being known as a defender for his entire career. Get Anthony Edwards that sort of alleviation. Nobody else on the team can score off the ball like him. Nobody else on the team can score on the ball like him. Nobody else on the team can score off the dribble like him. Get somebody who can, please. And really, you have to evaluate the value that Julius Randle has at this current point in time. I don't know if he has any after the type of playoffs he just had and the type of series specifically that he just had. But please evaluate it. Rudy Gobert probably has great value because of the type of series he just had. He is still an all-time defender, Hall of Fame level player. Get him somewhere else. He is 34 years of age. Anthony Edwards is 25, I believe. Keep the team on his timeline. The closest you can get to his timeline. Because if he keeps seeing different aging stars on his team, he's going to say, oh, this team is not built for where I'm going to be when I'm 30. Because when I'm 30 years old, Rudy Gobert is not going to be there. Julius Randle is not going to be Julius Randle. All these players are going to be done and gone. I feel like the only saving grace for Ant right now is the fact that Jaden McDaniels is in his age range, and Jaden McDaniels has consistently gotten better. Get Ja Morant, please. This is like the only time I've advocated for Ja Morant on this level, because I feel like there was a point in time in the early 2020s where he was very much being overrated by a lot of people. But also, I can recognize that he would be a fucking lifesaver for this Timberwolves team. So do it. Whatever it takes. Make that move. Because you like the Timberwolves have shown that they will do whatever it takes to make a move. That trade to get Rudy Gobert was a whatever it takes move. That trade to get Julius Randle, very polarizing and very out of the blue. Do it again. Get yourself a Ja Morant. All right, peace.